The purpose of this video is to provide a few helpful tips and pointers around social selling. So first off, what is social selling? So this is an often used term. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, but look at the core of it. Social selling is nothing more than the extension of tried and true selling best practices, but it's connecting with your customers and prospects through social channels, whether that be LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. So here's some examples, right? Here's Kevin and Paul doing great jobs of putting themselves out there so that as they connect with folks, right, something that sets them apart and lets their contacts know how they can help. I pulled also some quotes I like, so I'll jump around on some of these, right? But social's not a place for the hard sell, right? This is all about building trust, building rapport, building credibility. Many customers are in different phases of their buyer's journey. So making contact with those and then tastefully sharing information and sharing insights from time to time to keep you and to keep GitLab at the top of the customer's mind. Perhaps they're only thinking about GitLab from a perspective of source code management, but sharing with them where and how we continue to innovate and delight our customers will help to get them to think about, they can help me with so much more of my modern application development journey. I also really like this quote, right? If you suck offline, you're going to suck more online. So this isn't, many sales folks approach me and say, hey, well, I've dabbled a little bit, but I'm not really sure what's going on with social, so I don't do a whole lot there. And the biggest thing I can share with you is like there's no secret. Yes, there are some tips and tricks that you can use to leverage social channels, particularly as it comes to listening and gaining insights into your customers. But really, this is about you being a consultative seller, a trusted advisor, and communicating, having a professional presence that increases and improves how you communicate with your customers. And let's face it, right? This quote from Jill Rowley, customers that are on social, right? They're getting information from others, from competitors, from just articles online. So my argument is if you're a salesperson and you're not actively, and you have customers that are on and gaining information from these social channels and you're not on there, you're missing out. So before we get started, just a few things. I have linked here. This presentation is in the public sales training drive, the Google Drive for GitLab. So linked to some helpful tips and tricks from our friends in marketing. And I do encourage everybody to sign up for this content update Slack channel. There's great content that you can just copy and paste into LinkedIn or to Twitter, right? I encourage you to take that information and make it your own, right? Don't just spit out the same content that everybody else does, but provide a unique insight. And you don't have to do that every single time. Certainly it's totally fine just to copy and paste some of that content. But I do encourage you, don't simply just re-forward or reshare. Folks are looking for you to be that trusted advisor and to know that you have a point of view and a perspective on things. I've listed there also all the different properties, GitLab's properties for the major social channels. So we'll cover, I'm not going to go through all these slides, but these are a few of the things that you'll see in the slide deck. I encourage you, one, to peruse this at your convenience. Two, chime in with your comments and suggestions for best practices. Social selling, right, and interacting with customers and prospects on social vehicles continues to emerge and evolve. So I helped to start a social selling program at Red Hat several years ago with the sales team. But I don't consider myself an expert, and certainly I don't think anybody is. I think people continue to try out new things, and as soon as customers get kind of used to being bombarded or engaged with a certain way, they're looking, you need to stand out. So constantly think about ways to innovate with how you leverage social in a tasteful way. We do know this stat, right? Social sellers that engage in social selling are 75% more likely to exceed their sales quota. And these are the things that, with even just 15 minutes a day, you can help to build your relationships. You can gather insights into what your customers are thinking and their careabouts. You can promote your own professional brand and find new sales opportunities to go after. So here's some examples. Right, here's a great example of Kevin engaging somebody that was speaking at an upcoming conference, and opportunity to connect with him or her there. This is a great effective use of video, right, as a way to stand out. So sending video messages, personalized, tailored video messages to help stand out. Another example here, connecting a key strategic contact with Sid at an upcoming conference. And you can see here, Justin posted some information about GitLab value proposition. And here's a CEO responded saying, let's talk. So choose your channels. Folks, a common question also is, well, where should I be active? And honestly, the question is, or the answer is, or I guess it is a question, is where are your customers active? So you should find out, are your folks engaging more on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter? Me personally, look, there's no right or wrong here. Me personally, LinkedIn is often the go-to. I don't do so much with Facebook as it relates to work. And then Twitter, I personally find Twitter to be a better place to listen and gather insights and follow key contacts and companies, and LinkedIn is really the place where I engage. But again, I don't pretend to have all the answers. I'd love to hear from you all about what approaches you've tried that have worked out for you. Hopefully you've heard of. If not, no worries. You can click on this link to find out your social selling index. So LinkedIn will kind of give you a rating. They've got some algorithms behind the scenes. Take it with a grain of salt, but we'll give you, this is GitLab's sales team's average score is 68. So I encourage you to check it out. See how you compare to your peers. Here's some top team members. So congrats to these folks that have the highest SSI scores. Now this was maybe from a couple months ago. So this leaderboard will continue to, folks move up, move down. But encourage you to check this out and see what kind of actionable insights you can glean from this SSI index. So these are LinkedIn's 4 pillars of social selling. We'll dig into a few of these. So in terms of your professional brand and profile, this is an interesting stat, is that oftentimes customers will avoid engaging with sales professionals if you don't have a complete presence on LinkedIn. So what does that look like? What is a complete presence? So we'll talk in a few minutes, but here's some. It's like encourage you to use this space here under the About section to put a little promo, right, of what is GitLab all about. You even have an opportunity here to include links to images, to blogs, to videos, to websites. So encourage you to use this space so that folks that are engaging with you can come here and find out information. And also make sure you're staying active, right? As folks look at your activity, they're going to see, the comments and the likes, et cetera, that you make. I also encourage folks just include a basic headshot and make as much of this public as possible. So here's from in-mail responses, folks that have public photos and profiles get 40% higher response rates. So these are examples, right, of good professional looking headshots that have relatively simple background. These are some things that that are typically not recommended, right? A night out on the town, pictures with your pet, kind of weird poses, not having a photo. So in general, again, these aren't hard and fast rules. These are recommendations that these types of photos really have showed that they don't really perform as well in terms of establishing that professional brand and getting other customers and prospects to engage with you. Another great suggestion here is, right, make sure you use this to differentiate yourself. and think about this from the shoes of your customer and your prospect. What I would encourage you is not to put in here about how, you're the best salesperson ever and you've killed quota and all this stuff, right? The customer doesn't want to hear that language. Sure, that might set you apart as you look to get your, as you're pursuing other opportunities. But I encourage you here in terms of leveraging your social presence to help you build relationships and connect with customers. Put something here that differentiates yourself, that shows you, that portrays you as a trusted advisor, right? And you can use this about section. We saw earlier it was about GitLab, but I encourage you to include a little bit of both, right? About yourself and GitLab. So here's an example, not that mine's right, but I'll talk a little bit about, in fact, I think this is probably not enough about me specifically, but I just say that I work here, right, and have a little bit of a blurb about GitLab, and then a number of links here that point to different videos and customer success stories, etc. I've also listed out keywords that are skills that I would like folks to be able to find me if they're looking for information related to some of these terms. Some other tips and tricks, right? Here's when you go to edit your profile. So definitely encourage everybody to include the, I need to update that too, about.gitlab.com for the website. You have an opportunity to customize your LinkedIn URL. Many folks don't know that. So if you haven't done that, encourage you to check that out and try to make this as public so that folks can find you. Again, some of these are personal preferences, not a hard and fast rule. So we'll go to growing your network with social. One of the tips I'd encourage everybody is you'll see these, hey, you might also know these people. And I'd encourage you, don't click on the connect here, because what happens is folks just get just generic, boring invite. And to me, it speaks out, just laziness. What I encourage you to do is go to their profile page. So literally I'll click Catherine Colvard, go up to Catherine, who's a former colleague of mine at Red Hat. And if you click this button, you have an option to customize the invitation, right? And so put a short little, personalized message. I know many folks have kind of do a mass personalization, right? So just copy and paste something that comes across as tailored and individualized, but is fairly cookie cutter for what you use when you connect to the folks you're inviting. I encourage you to join groups and participate in discussions. This is, I'd say don't force this. This is just, if you are following these and have something to add in a tasteful way, make sure you do so, always thinking about, hey, you're representing GitLab. So make sure you think about it in terms of, hey, would this be okay if it was on the paper tomorrow that I shared this information? So definitely don't do anything shady here. These are things that you can show that you're active and involved in discussions, groups that are relevant to what our customers care about. Finding prospects, so you can use keywords. I'd love to hear your examples of how do you use the search capability and the Sales Navigator capability to find folks that you want to target. You can also use this to map accounts, right? Gain insights into, so here's an example, found a DevOps engineer, right? I can quickly look here and say, all right, well, they went to New England College. So I can think about, do I have anybody in my network that has some kind of affiliation with that school? I can look at their experiences, licensing and certifications, things like that just give me, a little bit more information about understanding Suman, understanding what Suman's interests might be, and that when I do have a chance to engage with Suman, whether it's in person or through digitally, I've got something that I can start a conversation about. Engaging with insights is incredibly important. You hear it all the time of, you don't want to be column fodder, right? You don't want to be the vendor that gets pulled in to compare against a supplier that's already like the go-to choice. You want to help your customer craft that vision. So I encourage you to share insights where we can help shape perceptions and beliefs of your customers and contacts. These are great. Sharing thought leadership, sharing customer successes, encouraging the customer to think differently, right? They probably think of, oh, well, Jenkins is the leading CI platform. Okay, many organizations have adopted Jenkins, but did they know that the Forrester has put us in the leader wave for CI solutions? And just encouraging them to check out of other success stories where they can see peers, oftentimes in similar industries, similar geographies, etc., that have experienced success with GitLab, so that they can start to see themselves, right? Start to envision themselves having similar success, and at least taking that step to engage in dialogue with you. This is great too to promote regional events. So here's some awesome examples of GitLab sales team members and others already, right, leveraging social to encourage attention to and attendance at regional GitLab events. You can also, I encourage you to sign up for Google Alerts or Feedly. I'd love to also to hear your best practices of getting using social as a listening tool, right, to get tailored and targeted information that helps your prospecting and selling efforts. And last but not least, around building relationships. So like this mentions, liking and commenting and resharing, especially your customers' posts, showing that you have a vested interest in what they have to say, can get you miles in terms of building relationships and expanding rapport. So I won't go into Twitter too much, but I do encourage you to check out this deck. It's got a few examples of, hey, why use Twitter? I think Twitter, again, if you customers are on Twitter, and you can do a quick Google search to say, hey, name company Twitter, and it'll pull up to see if that person has a Twitter handle. You can say, hey, what did they recently tweet about? Who do they follow? What things are they liking? You can start to get a sense for what that person is, kind of what's on their mind, what they care about, etc. So some examples of, what does a good Twitter profile look like? Here's head of corporate marketing, Melissa Smolinski. You can see her example here. And as I mentioned, so social listening, here's some suggestions of, you can follow certain hashtags, you can follow key contacts at your companies that are active on social. Some suggestions on kind of best practices for tweets. Here are two Twitter handles that I encourage you to follow. So this is also a great way just to kind of stay in the loop of things. So practical next steps for how you can get started today. So I do encourage you to review and re-review these earlier slides. They're, again, just kind of basic principles of what does a good LinkedIn profile look like. And I encourage you, fill out that about section if you haven't done that. Add in some links, right? Link to the GitLab website, link to a couple of videos that you would like your customers to watch if they happened upon your profile. Make sure you've got the right headshot and a customer-centric summary that differentiates you. I encourage you to create a plan of check out your SSI score and see what recommendations come out of that. Where can you improve? And just pick a couple of things that you can start to do, right, where as you make this a habit of even just 15 minutes a day to increase your engagement on LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. The other thing I would encourage you to do is find your peers that are active on social, right? Ask them about, hey, what's worked for you? Kevin's Kevin's actions of creating tailored videos that he shares with certain customers. If you'd like to learn how to do that, just pick his brain on how he goes about doing that and what success he's had. Reach out to others just to find out other best practices. So that's it. My last call to action for you all is, look, you all, my observation is that GitLab, the sales team, you all are doing a fantastic job engaging with customers already through social channels. I think you all have a lot of the best practices and encourage you to share with each other. So if you would please also share those with me, this deck will continue to evolve and expand, and we'll share even more best practices over time. Thanks so much.